disappeared from the timeline. He's got nobody, he doesn't have a home. Spider-Boy wants to be a sidekick, but he's all when he's all alone. Can I be the only one who likes you? Spider-Boy, can it be true? 'Cause everyone here hates Daddy Slot. He's black, that's all I know. And because everyone here hates Daddy Slot, Spider-Boy will just go away again. Away again. Don't go away.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Weird Science Marvel Comics podcast. I said to you that every show needs a original theme. We don't have one yet for the Marvel show, so I remembered we had the Spider-Boy deal, and you even made the joke that if we have a theme, it has to be Spider-based, because everybody criticizes us for just talking Spider-Boy books or Spider books, but we are talking about Spider-Boy today. That ended up very abruptly, that one, and a little hateful towards Dan Slott, who we like a little more than others.
He gave us Spider-Boy. He
did
him.
block me, and so I should be mad at him, but it's just the idea. Again, I think that in this day and age, by this point, there are a lot of other people, a lot of other creators that have done way worse than just being gruff online with people. I mean, you can not like a guy for any sort of reason, but there's a lot of worse people out there, but he's also given us Spider-Boy, like you said. Now, this week in Spider-Boy, when he starts talking about different web of spider, like, hey, I don't need that. And we even have a new web of Spider-Boy.
He's not even writing that, though, so it's kind of, if he was writing, it would be halfway decent, so I don't, somebody else is doing it.
I saw that Greg Pak's on it, and you end up having that Matt Broom. I think that is a Kyle Higgins type guy, but in the meantime, I'm kind of done with that. I mean, how many times are we going to have Death of the Spider-Verse and the web and all that? And it just keeps coming back. It'll never die. But that doesn't mean, and actually it multiplies. It's Bebe's kids, but I'm not going to deal with it. Neither are you, because we have two books that we're going to talk about. And lo and behold, only one's a Spider book, and it is Spider-Boy. But this is episode, I believe, 78. That is the legacy number, 578. Maybe we'll just go back to legacy number at some point, because that sounds fancy.
Maybe at 600.
Yeah, maybe. We did go away from it at 500, and we kind of didn't have a reason. We just did. And so I actually always thought it was funny just to have a legacy number. And it was easy to switch then, so it was just equaled out, 78, 578. I'd get confused if it wasn't that. But here we are. Before we get into this, if you want to see written reviews for a bunch of books, even more than what we're going to talk about, you can check out Sus Gabe's reviews over at Weird Science, marvelcomics.com. You can also, and please check out our YouTube channel, Weird Science Comics, where we are starting to put up the podcast in full, not just the reviews cherry pick from it, but actually the whole deal. And people seem to like that a little more. It's obviously, it's not going to get the same amount of clicks as individual things. That's kind of the way you should do it, but people seem to like it as a whole with the banter. And then also you can check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Weird Science. And I did get some reactions and some people talking about liking Sully jumping in with some extra reviews. This week, there's not really much for him to talk about, but that is the thing. I wouldn't mind him doing that with the Marvel and DC, just having a little
it's good
bit
to
of
have a different
coverage.
Opinion and a fresh perspective, and
Sully's
generally
a very positive guy. He likes
positive
different
outlook.
things. He likes the art and onomatopoeia and also really lame books more than me and you. But I don't mind that. And again, when me and you record, we end up recording late at night. You have to get up and things like that. So sometimes we do end up. And a lot of times, too, we plan on doing 3 or 4 books. And by the time I start reading them, I can't take it. So I need some days to recuperate from some of these. And I'm telling you, if we had a 3rd book this week, after reading that Doctor Strange book, I don't think we would have been doing that. That Doctor Strange book, as a little spoiler, bit of a slog, that book.
Yep.
And I have a big question when we get to it. And I don't know if we missed some things that people can inform us or if it's just something that they haven't shown. But you'll see when we get there. But we are going to start with Spider-Boy. Spider-Boy, one of our books of the year. And I really thought we were going to get some guff for it because a lot of people were mad when it was first announced. Hey, and the people who don't like Spider-Boy, they hate it, right?
They never gave it a chance.
But they never gave it a chance. I don't think they ever read it. So they hate it in concept alone, but never really tried it. And then even some people said the only reason they did try it was because we, kept talking about it and whatnot. Nobody actually came back to me and said, oh, you screwed me. You ended up having me read this book that I hate. It's ridiculous. Most people come back and say it's a cute book. It's what it is. It's not the biggest, most important book, but it's fun. And that's kind of all we need from it, right?
It comes out once a month on time, no issues.
Yeah, no, I think Christos Gage only had to do one issue.
Well, they got a different artist on this one, so that helps too to keep it going.
Yeah, and the art is a little different. And the way that this issue plays out, it is a little bit more dialogue heavy, right? So with the change of art, it does kind of hit you a bit of, oh, this one might not be as great as the others, but it's doing a lot of things that if it does keep going, I kind of think that things are being tied up here. But if it does keep going, some of these things are big enough, and some of these things are tying up things that have been kind of sitting there, really making Bailey's mom, Mrs. Briggs, look like a real jerk. She doesn't look great after this issue either.
No.
But the idea that she just left Boy Spider and the farm and did not care. When you had that Christina go, hey, have you gone back to the farm? Have you talked to anybody? She's like, nah, haven't done that. It was really odd. Now, on the other side of things, we haven't seen Christina's parents in a while, who we thought were also terrible. They're in this issue. They ain't doing anything.
They're not out looking for jobs. They're standing around.
I love the idea. She's like, they keep trying to get jobs. I don't see that. I swear to God. They've done nothing, and they're all out of ideas. They're just standing there in feast, doing nothing. But we will get into this. Again, it's kind of an issue that has a lot of things going on. We'll see how they, progress in the deal. But it is the Spider-Boy number 17, written by Dan Slott, art by Nathan Stockman, colors by Eric Arcienega, letters by VC Joe Kermania. You tie up things in this. Now, in the whole play, I guess Bailey still has the gaping mouth because he doesn't answer the question, right? I mean,
Matt I think he still has it. Yeah,
Matt. And so I thought we're going to see them take care of the situation, but they don't quite do that yet.
Just leaves it open.
But I like the way that Matt's like, hey, by the way, I can't believe you won the contest. And here's the other thing. If you don't want to read 17 issues of the Spider-Boy, you could probably, at the least, you could skip the first arc. We talked about that. You do go back to things with that. You could kind of page through. But legit, I think they're using this as a way to be almost like a jumping on point.
You could start here. Yeah, definitely.
Because the thing with the Gaping Mouth, there's a cool tournament stuff that we liked. It went on a little bit too long. But the idea where Matt kind of just tells you everything of, hey, so we just did this tournament. Like, it's really in your face that they're setting this up to be a jumping on point, it seems. But says, hey, you got the grand prize, the Gaping Mouth. What are you going to do with them? Did you still have them? And he's like, yeah, whatever. Because Matt says, you told him to disband, right? And he's like, yeah, and we'll see about that. And goes off. And then as Matt says, hey, you didn't answer. He's like, can't hear you. And goes off. And we get Killionaire again. And
I forgot all about him.
I forgot all about Killionaire, too. I mean, the guy, he's rich as hell and still can't afford a good haircut. I mean, this haircut is the worst, right? But he's got his big K down.
It's a Dr. Octopus cut.
He's like a Doc Ock meets the Beastie Boys, it looks like. But he ends up where he's yelling and screaming, hey, you got to do this job. And he wants pretty much to have Feast go away so that he could get the property. So he ends up getting these guys to do the job. In a funny deal, these villains are Bada Bing and Bada Boom, the Bada brothers. It's kind of a funny thing. They're in New York, so it plays up there. Hey, forget about it. You have all that stuff going on. Now, in the meantime, though, again, I forgot all about Killionaire, and it makes him less to me when he's attacking Feast. Though maybe a hero is what we think. Because me and you aren't real fan. Feast, you said it before we started. Feast gets blown up every issue of any comic it's in. It just got destroyed in Spider-Man. It's now getting blown up in this. just stay away
It's
from
been
that
blown
place.
up probably 20 times.
And it
its
always
history.
ends up with the, oh, well, we're going to rebuild it and all this. And this whole play ends up, it's very forced to get to where we're going to go because of the farm with the, humanimals and all that stuff going on. Though I did think we were going to get more of Hell If I Know.
Yeah, where was he? Is he in
I
this?
think he was there. I mean, I did see the one guy, but I thought we were going to resolve that eventually.
Oh, he's in the background.
Yeah,
carrying
he's just
stuff.
kind of there. That poor guy, that's Bailey's best friend that ends up being an animal that was named because Bailey was making a joke.
She's talking to Mr. Cricket instead of him.
Yeah,
I mean.
Mr. Cricket. But in the meantime, Bailey's back in New York and he goes and he's like, hey, I got to get to my friends. He even points them out. Again, a very much, hey, guys, if you're jumping on here, there's Marco, Larissa, and then he sees me. Marco, a little on the side there. And Larissa, it's more Christina being the friend, but these are the school friends that we barely got to see. But you end up where Bailey sees himself. We know it's Boy Spider who ends up. Now, nobody realizes the guy has odd eyes and has always got those teeth going.
Razor teeth.
Bore, right?
He looks demented. He looks just...
Again, maybe they're like, Bailey's off a little. But the mom barely, Dan Slott tries to pull it back to say she almost recognized this and she knew all along. But we know she didn't because it kind of just happened. Bailey comes in and ends up kicking Boy Spider because he's like, hey, you took my thing, you took my identity. How dare you? And he thinks it's like Chameleon or some sort, and even says Kid Chameleon, which is kind of funny. And I'm actually, one of the things that I am a little bit disappointed is that we didn't continue maybe having Spider-Girl or even, Hulkette, some of those characters. It'd be hilarious if he went to school and Hulkette has just enrolled and she's there, because we did like those characters.
I think they'll be back somewhere.
I think so, too. But you end up where Spider-Boy then is, Bailey says, why are you trying to be me? And he says, you took everything from me. And he did. I mean, this kid who is Boy Spider had Bailey's mom raising him, and then she just completely ditched him. I mean, ditched him immediately when she found out that Bailey was indeed her son. It was bad. Mm-hmm. You should have probably just had, Boy Spider come along.
You would just raise them both, especially since he can transform.
Exactly what she does here. And when she explains it to Bailey, because they're fighting, and that's kind of the fun of it. And Boy Spider, though he's horrific looking, he's a monstrosity. He's not bad. He's never done anything bad. He just wants his mama. And she's like, hey, stop, and they're talking Spider to each other.
Oh, yeah.
Probably cursing. And she says, stop talking Spider, use your inside voice. It's kind of fun. So the big play to Bailey, because Bailey's mad. Why is this kid here? He's not, whatever. And she's like, no, he is part of you. And it is true. I mean, you get Bailey who gets the DNA of the Spider, but then the Spider got the leftover DNA of Bailey. Not in a sexy way, I guess, but the idea of splicing together, that's his complete deal. And she says, I love both of you.
Yeah, they're basically the same.
Where were you all this other time? This Boy Spider's been by himself for how long now? At this farm, worried and wondering why his mom left him. She's got a lot of making up to do. But again, it's the idea of having brothers, almost like adopted brothers because of the age. And they're like, hey, he's got my stuff. Oh, you didn't use that before. Hey, it's all yours. And then they go back and forth. But since Bailey has to go to school, the Boy Spider's like, I'm just going to sit here and play video games. The mom goes, no, you're going to help me at Feast. And he says, I ain't going to Feast. If I go, people will wonder why there's another Bailey. I'm playing video games. One for Boy Spider. And he gets to play video games. And then only to force things later, you have Bailey say, well, I'm taking your troll pencil. It's only there, so he has to use it later. But it's okay. But even then, I'm going to take your troll pencil. I one on me. I think if I'm Boy Spider, I'm like, no. Like, I think I still win. I don't have to go to school. I get to play video games. You have a troll pencil.
It's interesting too, because Boy Spider was filling in with him for school, and he was actually doing a pretty good job. Yeah,
and that was the thing too. I like where you have that play. I'm glad you brought that up, because the idea where you have the mom say, "Can you fill Bailey in?" What happened? And he's like, "Oh," and then she farted, and then this, like, he just likes to gossip, and then Bailey's like, "No, what did you learn?" And he can't get it, and he tries to teach him, but he is actually better. I think that what this could be what it works out as. This is a thing I don't like when you have heroes have jobs. I've argued with Eric at times. I've argued with a bunch of people because you're never going to have it. But at this point, if this keeps going, Boy Spider can now go to school when Bailey has to go off. He ends up where you don't have the idea of this little kid missing so much school.
It's perfect.
It works out that way.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, he's better at school than Bailey is. So it works
somehow,
out great.
I mean, having no education.
I know, no education up till this week. And all of a sudden he's like, I'm in. I don't know. Maybe spiders are good at, prime numbers. I do like the idea they're doing square roots. But at one point, Mom goes, yeah, and then there was radical numbers. And he goes, Mom, nobody says radical anymore. So it's a pretty funny joke. That's the goofy stuff in this. There's a lot of dad jokes and things like that are okay. But the mom ends up talking with Christina when they're at Feast and talking about, hey, what's going on with the farm? Now, Mr. Cricket, he did call and say, hey, we need you here because we're not able to sell the vegetables from the farm because we're monstrosities. And nobody will buy stuff from monstrosities. And can you please be the face? That
sounds about right.
I'm not buying stuff from these freaking freaks. You end up where she says, oh, well, I'll have to work it out, whatever, tells Christina this. This all works out by the end in a weird way, but Feast blows up again. And it's bada bing, bada boom. Remember that, and we've talked about it before, this crazy apartment that they end up, the Briggs live in.
Yeah, right above
Feast. And it's like, in New York City, it's the biggest apartment I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where Boy Spider hears the explosion. He goes downstairs, and he's going to end up fighting bada bing and bada boom. And they're, like I said, forget about it. We're the bros. We're the heroes. And you're going to have where Bailey's at school and he's having problems. He doesn't know. He must not have been paying too much attention to what happened when Boy Spider told him. And he breaks his pencil, which makes him have to get the troll pencil, which then uses the Spidey sense. If you're not reading it, the Spidey sense is like clairvoyance of a near future trouble that whoever owns the thing would have. And he sees that Boy Spider would indeed die if he doesn't go off and save him. And so he goes. He runs out of school, again, maybe getting in trouble because the teacher's like, you can't go, but goes to Feast to fight.
He's like, I got to go, man.
Yeah. And this is the idea. They're going to both team up and they're going to fight. And that's how they become friends and all that. The mom, she's like off and they're trying to protect her and try to get Feast. But they do this they want to get this explosion, bada bing, bada boom, make an explosion. They try to throw it back at them, but they can't be harmed by their own thing. So then Bailey makes it into like a bowling ball and runs it right into the food pantry of Feast. Basically, the biggest thing there.
It's like their vault where all the money is.
It would be. That's all it is. This is it's
their whole
kitchen.
Reason for existence is that.
This is all that Aunt May's always bitching at Peter about and all this stuff. And he rolls this in and it ruins everything. In the meantime, though, we know that the farm has all this produce and whatnot. But the problem I have, and they even say it, and this is the idea, that doesn't mean they're going to give it away for free. But the mom says at one point, whatever, you would have thrown it away anyway. But it doesn't solve the problem. But now it's going to be, we'll buy each month from you. It's a little, it's forced in a way. But what the play is, it's all kind of within the book. So it's fine.
It's also, do you need a human-looking person if you're doing only business with Feast? No. Because you're already in on it.
The thing is, they're in on it, and everything's getting blown up and things like that. It's just Feast. These people are like, I can imagine, like, I'm there and I'm a person without a house, I'll go with the idea in New York, and I'm like, ooh, I'm not eating that soup. That was made by Mr. Cricket. I'd be like, whatever. I mean, give me the soup. But, so that's basically the whole play. It's the setup that now we don't have to worry about the farm. The farm now, not that we were worried anyway, but the mom really wasn't. But even that, the Feast guy who comes, I would think that he'd be a little more open as well.
No.
Plus, they just got saved by Spider Boys. Yeah. Nobody mentions there was two either. Like the idea of why would there be two? But yeah, they're hiding. When this guy from Feast comes, there's hell if I know. They're all hiding. And then to make it so that Bailey and Spider Boy Spider aren't always, you end up having Boy Spider go back to the farm to act as the face of Bailey to get, but Esco goes by Boyd. It's all to get them
He's
out
like
of
the ambassador or something.
Yeah,
now.
and it's to tie all these loose ends.
He's like 10 years old.
So then I think Dan Slott probably had gotten some flack from somebody like, that mom's a piece of crap. Like, so this solves the idea where Boy Spider is there. I still don't know why he's just not living with them. But in the meantime, you do see over the thing that they have that crazy, like, it looks like a pig guy there. But you end up where they're like, hey, hey, Bailey, what's going on? I'm going to stay here at the farm, and Mom's going to jump back and forth. It doesn't matter much at all. They're just there, and then Christina's like, I'll take care of Bailey and whatnot. And, well, why not? Because your stupid family has nothing. Now, in that, during this whole deal and during the attack, Christina just sees a blast, opens up the floor of Feast, and that's where you get this web of this nonsense.
Tie into something that I hope
it ties into the Edge of Spider-Verse #3, where she gets these keys. I think this is just to end up getting her family money and or jobs, because that's how this book is going now, and I do think that it is probably coming to an end. Usually these things end in 5, so I would say that maybe we'd have to look, maybe
3 more
21,
issues?
something like that, because it does seem like they are tying some things together here. And I do think you would want to have Christina's awful parents finally get a job. And again, they're not going to find a job themselves. Christina's going to have to find them with the keys. So I bet that is the case. But I still like it. And if it did end at 2021, whatever they would do, 25 even, it's been a good series. I actually like it, and I like Bailey, and I like the idea. Yeah, he's shown up in Spider-Man a bit, but only like a page or two. They always just mention it when people were really losing their mind that he's gonna take over and he's gonna be this. You don't have to get that upset about it. He's just a fun character that does his own thing, and even at points has some cool guest stars. You have, a lot of things. The Avengers were in at one point.
Yeah,
you even
Daredevil.
Daredevil.
Cool,
you had him a couple times. You have a bunch of things going on, and even that one tie-in deal with the kid Deadpool that we didn't love so much, but it was probably because it was too long. But we did like, most of it. But what would you give this?
Yeah, I mean, I even like Boy Spider. He's a nice.
Yeah, I actually like him more. I didn't like him before. I actually wish he was at the house with them more. I think that would have been cool.
I'll give this one a solid 8. I like it.
Yeah, I think I'm an 8 as well. And I think that it's a bit better. Like, again, it's very dialogue heavy, but the things that happen, you want to have things tie together and some things get out of the way, which was cool. But I did like it. It's the start of a new deal, maybe the end stretch run, but I don't mind.
I think that the art, Nathan Stockman does a good job of kind of keeping the mood going, but I think that Paco Medina, the normal artist, does a lot of the heavy lifting with the art and what's going on.
With Paco Medina, this actually looks a little more gritty at points. Not that it is. It's still cartoony, but it looks gritty, and there's a lot more, in my mind, more panels in this, so you have a lot of things going on, but again, it's
he'll
a
probably
lot of
do the whole
things.
arc here, so maybe he'll get his groove going.
That'd be pretty cool. But yeah, I didn't mind it. I'm an 8. I'm not so big on the next one, which should be very important. But it is Doctor Strange of Asgard. Is it a one world under Doom? It says it is. It makes sense that it would be, because Doctor Doom got the whole Sorcerer Supreme power from duping or trying to, kind of almost like blackmailing a bit of Stephen in the whole blood hunt. They were desperate to give it. But in the meantime, it says this is an ongoing. I don't think this is going to last. The 5 issues, maybe 10. They claim that most things are going to go to 10 now. I don't know. This thing, you have Doctor Strange. I mean, even the cover, you're like, okay, Doctor Strange of Asgard. This seems cool. I don't think there's anything cool in this issue. It is boring. It loses track of the idea that this could be cool. Like, again, show the hero doing something crazy cool so that I could say, oh my God, you got to check this out. There's nothing in this that I would tell to somebody, you got to check this out. It doesn't explain things. And before I go, I'll give you the credits and then I'll ask you something. Because it's Doctor Strange of Asgard, #1, written by Derek Landy, art by Carlos Magno, colors by Espen Grutjern, letters by VC's Corey Petit. where's Clea? She's a Sorcerer Supreme as well. And yet we've read most, maybe we missed something.
Did she die or something?
He could just be with her. She was also the Sorcerer Supreme of Midgard as well as her. Why isn't she? And maybe it is. Maybe somebody says, oh, well, they did this, this, and that. But I think we've done most of the stuff, and she just disappeared. Like, is it like she's like, well, without him being, it'd be great if we see she's hanging out in Latveria, hanging with Doom. But not only is it just not, it's his wife, but she's still a Sorcerer Supreme. And that, like, with this, Doctor Strange, you could tell me that he's doing this to get his powers back from Doctor Doom. But in my mind, he gave it to him. Like, you were the one who was an idiot and gave it to him. You're going to have to deal with it. So in reality, the way the book plays out, doesn't it just feel like he's bored? Mm-hmm. And he wants to just do something? And this is
almost like he doesn't have to do anything. It's just...
I mean, he's hanging out with Spider-Man in the astral form for the most part, talking this and whatever. And then you have this. I thought, maybe you start this book out with a bigger deal of why something really bad. Now, Doom being Sorcerer Supreme might be really bad, but what does the Vishanti think of that? We don't know anything. When Doom became the Sorcerer Supreme, it just was that. And then Doom disappeared for a while. All he did was show up in Spider-Man to say, hey, can you do this for me? And now we have this one world under Doom that none of the tie-ins give you crap on crap. And then we have this. I think you should have something where, oh, Doom did this, or he's not doing this. The Vishanti, they're mad. You don't really get any real setup of something that should be all set up at this point. We should know exactly what he needs to be doing or whatnot. I think he's just bored. And also, I think he likes the title. That's it. And then when he gets here, all Doom is being mentioned in this is almost to shame him. To say, oh, you're the one who gave his powers away. You gave him the Dr. Doom. You're in it. You don't really get a mission statement of what's happening. And then by the end, and then looking at interviews and the solicits, it seems like a street-level Asgardian murder mystery. What?
That is kind of what it turned out to be. Yeah, you're right.
And it says that in the interview that I read, and then the solicits, because I wanted to think, is this 5 issues, whatnot? It's like in the new ongoing series. It was the biggest joke I heard.
These murder mysteries take about 5 or 6 issues to resolve, I think.
It's again, this is going to be like Avengers Inc.
It's exactly like that. Yeah, it starts with a stupid murder.
And half the people are like, what book are they talking about? Doctor Strange of Asgard. Again, Doctor Strange, we don't know exactly what his powers are or aren't. We've seen him do things. We see him do things here. He goes to Thor at the beginning of this. I already said it. So here we go. He goes to Asgard. He goes to talk to Thor and says, woe is me, Thor. I don't have a job. I figured that I could be the Sorcerer Supreme of Asgard. It's the only realm that doesn't have anything.
How did he even get there?
Don't know. And then it's like this whole play of, well, maybe, but you got to talk to her and you could do this and that. But we used to have this, and it just... all of it is just talking. Again, maybe you could have played something where Thor had to go to him because, in fact, the Skald are dead and, Loki's gone. And he needs somebody.
That would have been better.
Right? Have Thor say, we need somebody. I thought in this, which would have been funny, is that Thor is just making up a position. Hey, because he says, we don't need one of those. We've never had one. We always say, oh, but maybe you will. And Steven gives his
I got a guy in mind, and he goes and gets him. And that's it. And then Steven pushes back a little bit, and then he eventually joins up.
Or whatever, have something. But I'm telling you, if you go through on one of the big plays of how I say, you could really tell what goes on. If you page through this, and I'm doing it now, just really quick, digitally, I'm going through. And it's just a lot of people standing around talking. You just see that. And then when you do, the action in this issue is actually just Asgardians bullying another Asgardian. Then you get a guy who hooks up, we'll get into it, but you have some arm wrestling or wrestling of the arms. Then you get a kick of it. There's nothing going on. And then Loki shows up and then craziness. But it just, the whole play of this, this reads like this is the first issue of a second arc. There is nothing in this issue that makes me say, oh my God, I got to tell people about this. I have to read it. It is boring. It is overly boring. And it's this idea of exposition over exposition. Most people, if you don't know the idea, seriously, if you don't know that Stephen Strange ended up giving the Sorcerer Supreme title and whatnot to Doctor Doom, you're not missing much, because that's all we know. Since then, even in the One World Under Doom, it's not exactly like he's saying, oh, now I'm Sorcerer Supreme, I could do this, this, and this. He's just acting like Doom. And then you get into this, and it's just Stephen, hey, can I have a job? Thor says, well, you got to go talk, to the deal. We have to figure it out. And even then, he's like, Thor says, you can live in the castle here. You can live in the deal. And Steve's like, no. I want to live with the people. I'm like, really? Like, why? Like, you're the Sorcerer Supreme. Just because you live in Greenwich Village doesn't mean that, like, you're the man of the people. You're a Sorcerer Supreme. And through all this, everybody just really what you need. If anybody wants to go to Asgard and pretend that they're anybody, just grow a beard, because that's the be all end all. Everybody's like, you must be a sorcerer because you have a beard. And that becomes a joke that really doesn't hit. But I'm telling you, I'm looking right now. You get to page like 7 or 8 in this, and you're still just talking to Thor, trying to say, hey, can I be this? Can I do this? Can I please be this? I mean, pretty much just begging to be the Sorcerer Supreme of Asgard. Never once do we know what that means, what you're doing, what you end up having, because then when he goes out and about and he's heading off, to figure out, hey, can I do this, whatnot, he stops this guy who's like bullying another guy, and I'm starting to think that Thor is asleep at the wheel. Like, not that Thor has to be doing everything, but
or he's drunk.
They are very easy to just be beating the crap out of fellow Asgardians with no, fear of anything happening to him. And then Doctor Strange has to stop it. It's very odd. I'm telling you, like, this whole deal is just not really. It's
weird too to think of Asgardians as having like regular jobs and they're like gods, kind of, aren't they?
And he wants to do again. We're just going to get weird jokes that aren't funny. But Stephen has to go talk to Sorceress Hulda. She's the one who will let him know what he can do.
All right.
And again, you're just like, okay, like Thor, I thought you were in control. But he's going to go off. It's just to get to the next scene. And he's walking down, the street, and this one guy's getting beat up. He ends up fighting these guys for way too long for no real reason. They end up beating him up, and you never really figure out why, except maybe they just don't like that the guy wants to be a writer. Mm-hmm. And that's where we're now going to go for the next quarter of the issue, is talking to this guy about, what he is and what he isn't. And it just ends up, it's
oh, you're a bard. Great. No, I'm a writer,
And it's, what is it, Aslak? Even that, it reminds me of Avlak, but it also, Aslak, I'm like, that's not a great name. But he says, I am a carpenter, but I want to make a new writing. I'm not a typical bard. I don't sing and I don't play an instrument, but I want to make a new thing. It's the combination of comedy and romance. And then Stephen goes, oh, you mean a rom-com? Ooh, I didn't think of that name. I'm like, what are we doing? Aslak. Just that name, Aslak.
Rom-com.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, I was calling it, like, what does he say? He's like, oh, I was calling it, like, Funny Things with Love. I'm like, really? Like, what are you doing? So each scene just then ends. Some guy comes by, hey, there's the carpenter. I was a carpenter, but I did this. Then they go out, and the guy's like...
He gets a room. Dr. Strange gets a room, and I think he pays a lot of money for it.
But he doesn't have money. He does. I mean, even then you have Aslak, because this bartender comes by and says, hey, what's going on? And he's like, hey, my friend here, he's a sorcerer. He needs a room. Is that room up above still available at an exorbitant amount? And they just agree.
And then he gets the room, and why is he unpacking a desk lamp?
I don't know. I don't know. Again,
he's unpacking a desk lamp.
These are the things. That might be the most exciting thing we see in the whole damn issue. He's unpacking a desk lamp. Like, really?
Where's he going to plug it in?
Derek Landy wants to give you this bard guy, Aslak. He's like, people should be able to do what their heart desires. His family has always been carpenters, but he doesn't want to be a carpenter. He wants to do these crazy deals. Yeah, so then you have to have little comments then like, hey, remember that time when Asgard was kind of in the over Midgard in the air? I got to watch TV. You still have that? Yup.
The Jason Aaron stuff, yeah.
You know, the War of the Realms. I like Game of Thrones. Also Friends. Yeah. Do you? That's great. Aslack. And then they just happen on to Roskva, his woman, who is a hulking lady who's doing arm wrestling.
On a bunch of dead bodies.
Yeah, and I guess these were guys who she already wrestled or drank under. I don't know. Just on bodies. And this guy ends up winning this arm wrestling or wrestling of the arms, as she says, and then she kicks him in the balls. We laugh. He yells, "Oh, my plums." And then you have Aslak give her a kiss. She says, "Oh, you must be a sorcerer. You have a beard." I've been telling Aslak because this, deal. He also goes, and this is another guy that he ends up going with that ends up, I'm going to show you this and that. I'm telling you, this nonsense is going on. But you end up at the end, he goes to this Holda. I'm telling you, this book is ridiculous.
She's got some cool pants on.
Yeah, and she's got big horns
Boots.
and stuff. She's horny as hell. And again, he's like, I'm going to tell you the same spiel that I did before. And she's like, I don't need that. I know you're a good guy. I'm going to let you do this. Loki shows up. He's supposed to be banished. They tell you that's an immortal Thor. And
don't care.
And he's like, just kind of came in. His art changes. He goes from looking like the female Loki that we have at some point to look like a little kid.
Maybe that's purposely done. I don't know.
I don't know. And then he ends up like, I think that Doctor Strange, I'll give you the hands up. I think that he'd be pretty cool. And we'll just do that. And I'm telling you, I just want to get out of this.
Where does Doctor Strange get that scepter from? Does he pull it out of his ass? Where does he get that piece of wood?
I don't know. She grabs it off the wall. I thought.
No, he had it. He gave it to her, and then she stuck it on the wall.
That was the thing with the World Tree.
Yeah,
even that's like you still have that piece from this deal, and you got
it's tying a bunch of stuff together that you really didn't need to do.
You don't need it, and it's just boring. I'm telling you, I think I've messed up the guys. It's just you end up just not having much fun in this,
and then Loki stabs her.
Yeah, Loki ends up like, hey, and then stabs her and says, I didn't do this, disappears, and it looks like Doctor Strange killed her.
And then Doctor Strange is like,
he has no reason to at all.
No.
Yeah, nothing at all.
So now we got a murder mystery.
It's not even that she'd be jealous. You would have thought Loki would, because he shows up and he says, I was the Skald, nobody can replace me, so let's make a new position, so I'm the last.
Based on like historical stuff and things I've listened to, I would say that Jason would love this.
Yeah, it's pretty
trying
boring.
to solve the mystery.
Well,
and
he does
figuring
like
out
the mysteries.
Yeah, I think he would just love this. He would eat this up.
The mystery is why the hell would he like this? So that's the real mystery. I'm telling you, I read it and I was like, okay, we'll talk about it. Now I wish we didn't because I'm telling you, it's so boring.
I like the Carlos Magno art. I think it
but it doesn't
probably
fit
isn't
like the
the
kind
best
of that,
use of it.
It's so much humor thrown into this that the art's actually taking it seriously and looks actual gritty and whatnot.
That's
really
what it is.
Works well.
This would fit more in with Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, and that's what it should be. Doctor Strange should be there serious. Again, if Doctor Strange is there because he needs to be some Sorcerer Supreme so he could then go battle Doom and get things, but he doesn't seem that concerned and it's just going walkabout deal and now a murder mystery. I don't know why he's doing this.
When you're flipping through it, if you just substitute Doctor Strange for Conan and change the dialogue, it'd be amazing.
Yeah.
And then I do have to say, though, before I forget, the logo for this, the Doctor Strange of Asgard on the cover is really cool. I love how that looks.
The last movie. And people maybe
it just looks.
Maybe
it
the
looks
one
really.
But yeah, it's
cool.
cool. And the cover looks cool enough.
Yeah.
But again, what you see on the cover with Doctor Strange going to do magic, and he's got this that's the coolest thing you're going to see.
Yeah, he's on the Rainbow
Bridge. He's ready there. You don't see anything like that in this for a first issue, where you don't really explain anything either. You're just kind of meandering about. This book is not needed, and it doesn't tie into One World Under Doom. 2 books that should have so far as tie-ins. Fantastic Four, which barely did anything except say that vampires are people too, And then this one, bullcrap. Like, these are the ones that you would think you need. Don't bother. This One World Under Doom is already a dud.
He's gonna get his powers back. That's a guarantee by the end of this.
Yeah, but like again, even it's ridiculous. What would you give it? The art carries it.
I do like the art a lot. I can't give it anything less than a 6. Just because
I'm giving it a 5.5. I can go less.
Yeah, no, I get it.
It just gets it's not even that it gets me mad. It gets me bored. That's the worst. And I wanted to like this. Me and you were one of the few things I've seen online that actually went through that whole Doctor Strange deal with Jed McKay and were interested in it. And then it got, even during those like weird one-shots that ended up where it obviously was just extended because you have to have a book until Stephen gave the deal to Dr. Doom. I mean, we saw the writing on the wall. We still did every issue, and we were interested. I like Clea. You were one of the few people who would actually go and say that you like General Strange.
Mm-hmm.
But all these things just got tossed aside. Clea is a big thing that should be there and doing stuff and whatnot, but yet it's just him in Asgard not mentioning
just slumming it in Asgard for some reason.
And trying to make up a position that wasn't there just because. I mean, say something like, I need to, in case Doom, I don't trust Doom, because why would you? But he just kind of is like,
it's a weird path to take because, like I said earlier, like to me, Asgard isn't a place where like you're solving murder mysteries and things like that. It's just an odd take. I don't know why you would do that. Just get his powers back.
Why he's in Asgard? Because I think they want to keep him separate from the stuff, but yet they say it's a One World Under Doom deal.
You got to give him something to do.
You think it's in Asgard because you don't want him to be, involved, but I don't know. I didn't like it again. It convoluted even discussion because I'm telling you, it was so boring. I fucking lost track of things, and now I'm cursing.
And the weird names and everything.
Whew, that's tough.
And the obsession over beards. I thought everybody in Asgard had beards. I don't know why.
Seriously, where's
it's
Volstagg?
Snowing.
Guys, it's snowing. Even like the idea too. If anybody like, oh man, like you just don't know the things. What I know is Derek Landy ain't that good, and I've read a bunch of his things. He's Midgard. He's mid-right, and he's okay. Some of those things that he did, he had those little like Winter Soldier deal. Like a couple of things were fun enough. He lost track of the fun here. It should have been. He thought he was having fun with these jokes. Hey, I watch Friends. Well,
you're right though. The art doesn't match the tone of the book.
No, the tone.
That
even
throws
the
it
cover
off.
looks like it's serious though, right?
Yeah, it does.
And fun. I mean, you could go with it, but it's not like it'd be funny, Doctor Strange on the cover, laughing it up. Plus, he doesn't really have facial hair there. It's weird. I'm looking at it now. He does, but it looks like it's more of his lip than anything.
Yeah, it looks like his mouth's open.
Yeah, it looks like he's got crazy things going on.
We got a little too much Botox
book.
or something.
What a weird deal, but we'll see. I don't think we're going to be doing any more.
No, probably not.
This. It just doesn't.
We'll let Jason
like
take over the duties on this one.
Yeah, they could do it. No, you give them a drop. They can do it because of the bull crap. There you go. Cut and paste that one. I do see. I mean, I do have. We got that. We got that.
Learned edition.
This is one now. This is where I'm going to prove sometimes where I used to get guff from Eric about things repeating.
Bang.
I don't know why I hit that last thing I recorded and it's giving a double. That's not an option, but
it's better than a triple.
This was not a banger. That's for sure.
Ruben.
Oh my goodness gracious, Stork. But that's it. We're done. We're meandering about. I just feel bad because this book just, again, it's nothing. So
it doesn't mean anything. They're not making a big deal about it. It came out of nowhere, and that's it.
Yeah, we thought the Thing book was coming out this week. We would have easily have done that before this, but
yes,
we had to pick another book. Can't just do Spider-Boy by itself. So that is it. Thanks, everybody. Remember, if you want to actually go and hear, us talk about good books and things we like, you can go over to the Patreon, patreon.com/weirdscience, where me and Matt have been going through the Hush story, the first Hush, getting ready for DC's Hush 2. I know that's not a Marvel thing, but a lot of people read both.
Still good for comic book readers.
And we've been going through there. We're waiting for a little more Hush, and we're almost done, but still we're enjoying that. And even some other things that we end up doing there. We have a lot of reading clubs. We have a lot of things that are even more than just the big two. We have an indie show. We have other things that we end up doing, like a Walking Dead reading club podcast, a Hellboy podcast, which I just did right before we got on here, as well as many, many more shows. And maybe we'll get Sully. This is another bit of a bonus kind of content deal because I'm once again joined by my man Sully, Eric O'Sullivan, as he's called, the Sultan of Soup. What is up, Sully?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome from Boston, Massachusetts, the hub of the multiverse.
It might be.
Well, we call it the hub of the universe, and I believe in the multiverse because I am a lifelong comic books fan.
That is true. That is
Because,
true. You are a very positive guy, and after last week, you joined me for some bonus things, and these aren't planned. I ended up, this was last night, I ended up just sending you a note and like, hey, what do we have left? And you always tell me what you like.
Exactly.
And not like you brought up the idea of Star Wars Jedi Knights. And this is something where me and Matt, we did have a Star Wars comics podcast, but we ended up we couldn't take it anymore.
Right.
And we stopped and we're haven't been jumping back in, though. He was going to read that, but we didn't have time. And then you also said you liked the Web of Spider-Verse, New Blood, and that shocked me. I hadn't read it. You said you wanted to do it, and I read it, and I think that it's okay.
It's okay. It's
I
okay.
will talk with Sully about it, and people can see, because I think that these Spider-Verse books, they kind of get lost in the shuffle because people can't keep track of them. I swear to God, there's been like 20 deaths of the Spider-Verse at points and things like that. So who can keep track? But it's kind of fun. Now, with that, though, last week you joined me for a couple books, and people seemed to like it. They liked it a lot. A lot of people commented. A lot of people who also watched The Aficionados said it was cool that me and you got to talk about something like this, but even some people who haven't. Some people who were like, oh, man, I like that Sully guy. And most of the people who commented, one thing and one thing only. He's a damn Bostonian. No, they didn't say that. They ended up saying, he's real positive. And I said, I told everybody, I always tell everybody that Sully is positive. You and Gray are always the most positive guys. I think that me and Gray talking has kind of jaded him, though. I think I've ruined Gray. He'll get ruined soon enough. But in that, on the YouTube, some people were commenting, and Bernard Chang ended up giving us a thumbs up for our review. And that was cool. As an aside, I will mention, and I've talked to a couple people. I talked to a couple people, too. You are definitely who I had in mind, but I decided that after Eric left our podcast, I did not only just want to have Sully and a bunch of people on the podcast, but I want to do a separate show. It might be on YouTube. I want to do it on YouTube. That is like the positivity show. You give your, reason to be. I want to do something comic based of each week we get together and just talk about each person as one thing they found positive that week. Because I'm telling you, I need somebody to give me some positivity. I need, because myself, I am stuck at one point in a rut of just reading a lot of things I don't like and getting a little down on it. So I need some people to point out some stuff, but you've already done it. And actually, me and Matt this week doing the Marvel stuff, we did like Spider-Boy. I continue to like that book. And I hope that you would realize, Sully, and when we get on the Aficionados and things like that, if I do like something, I'm not going to lie, even though everybody else hates it. But here we are to talk some positive things.
Yeah.
And positive things that, again, are extra. I probably never would have read The Web of Spider-Verse. I probably never would have. But you said it was decent enough, and we're going to check it out. But first we'll do Jedi Knights. I'm a huge Star Wars fan.
Same here.
And in it, I will say, I didn't like the prequels. I'm starting to like them more because I hate the sequels so much that I like those. But I'm starting to actually
come to the dark side with us, please.
The time that has passed has come to make me kind of like a Mace Windu and kind of like some of these other characters that I didn't quite love when I first saw them. And this is okay. And it's written by, it's written by Mark Guggenheim. Now you got your figures out doing your crazy stuff. I have a couple figures. I have to get a shelf for them. But this is Star Wars Jedi Knights. And it is number 1. It is written by Mark Guggenheim, who I've read a couple things with Mark Guggenheim. And how I'll say it, he's decent. I don't think I've ever read anything that I thought he's my favorite writer, but I don't think I've read a lot of misses. I think that he's a competent writer, maybe like a little lesser of a Christos Gage to me. Somebody who, when I see his name, I don't get upset. And I'm like, okay, this might be pretty cool. Though when you first told me, I thought this was going to be an anthology book. I thought it was going to be like the Web of Spider. I thought it was going to be more of like, okay, here's a Mace tale, here's a Yoda tale. It's not like that. It's a continuing thing. So we'll see how it works out. But
probably going to be about 5 or 6 issues. 5 issues seems to be the new standard, like on arcs. You know what I mean? You could save 20 pages of print and charge the same in your trade paperback. Something like that.
In that, Tom Brevoort even said that a lot of books will always get to 10 now. That makes 2 trades, so it makes sense.
There you go.
And it's art by somebody who I've never heard of, Madabek Masabekov.
Yeah.
Yes. Colors by Luis Guerrero. I think I just activated a sleeper cell.
Mm-hmm.
Letters by VC's Clayton Coles. And a cover by Raza.
It's a nice wraparound cover.
Yeah, I like the cover.
It's very Alex Ross.
I thought it was very Alex Ross.
I thought it was Alex Ross.
At first, I thought it was too. And I'll admit it. I thought that it definitely was. Maybe some of the poses are a little off a bit, but it looks really good. And it's
it's a $4.99 book. 28 pages of story, 26 pages of story and art. And
I think the art's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to wow you, but it's pretty good. Now, the one thing that I do think is odd with this whole thing, there is a war going on,
right?
And you end up having the Jedi being called in to broker peace, something the Jedi would do.
Correct.
You know, that's something that they would do. The thing about it, though, is I think that for a book like this, whether or not you need to know or whatever, if you do, there are a lot of characters that are just mentioned.
A lot of Jedis in this.
Yeah, a lot of Jedis. And I thought that was kind of a weird play for a number one to really go over the top and mention every single Jedi that seems to be around at this point. Mm-hmm. But it was okay. And when you get, Padawan, Obi-Wan Kenobi, cool, Qui-Gon, we get one's Mace, Yoda. We get some ones that we know. Some of the ones, if you aren't a huge Star Wars fan, you'll still recognize.
Right.
From the prequels especially, you'll recognize some of those.
This is ones for the prequel fans. I mean, they're finally, making some original content, because there is a ton of original content set in this time, and that's on Dark Horse in the old continuity. And this is, coming at it, post Acolyte, post High Republic. Now it wouldn't surprise me to start seeing Old Republic historical points told from this era.
The big play, too, is that these books, something like this, or you actually might be the only one reading the Rise of Skywalker novelization deal or the tie-in comic because it's so late in the game. Mm-hmm. But they're filling a gap here. The new stuff is going to start. The post-Jedi, and I mean Return of the Jedi stuff will be starting.
And the new continuity.
Alex Seguera is one of the guys who's the bigger guys in it. I'm not a huge fan of his writing, so I'm worried. But they're kind of filling in a little space here until that comes in.
I'll tell you, the opening pages of this book, it does not have the Star Wars timeline. Usually, every single one of these Star Wars books does start with the obligatory Star Wars timeline page. It takes up a whole page. It's a one-page splash kind of thing. It's just a descending timeline. And, the Marvel Comics, the next volume of Star Wars definitely has to start filling in that lead up to Episode 7. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's the whole play. That's what's going to be.
They're not going to reboot. I mean, I've never believed that. They've spent too much money in this, too many. It's just, I'm to the point where, no, there are two, it's a multiverse in a way. There are parallel stories, you know what I mean? And I am a Lucas era fan. So this one, and that's a reason why I enjoyed this book. It's Star Wars. It's not, Star, peace, safe space. It starts off, boom. You know what I mean? Episode 3 started like this.
Yeah, that's what it reminded me a lot of, is Episode 3. So you end up where when you get this going, you end up where they're going to broker peace, and they go to these separate planets. Vakura, I guess, is the one, and Sphinx is the other. And you find out, I mean, you have a bunch of different, you have Jedis here, Jedis there. Some people are talking to the main guys. Yeah. And then they happen across what looks like a prison camp.
I'm going to do a Jedi count.
That'll be I was actually going to count how many
we'll drink every time we see a Jedi.
It's
It'd be a
gotta
drinking
in the
game.
double figures.
That'd be
But
great.
they end up finding a prison camp, but it's prison camp filled of old people and kids and women and things like that, which makes them they're supporting the one side, and the Jedi kind of realize, I think we might have been supporting the wrong side.
Yeah.
In the end, it ends up being that there's no real good side. Both of these, factions, they both have their ways and why they're doing this. And they keep playing it off as, oh, you Jedi, you don't know what you're talking about. This is, decades, centuries long fight. You would never, it kind of plays in. It feels a lot like, it's funny because at first it felt a lot like, the Palestinian and the whole Israeli deal, but then it starts feeling like the Russian and Ukraine, like it feels like.
And for me, it felt like just a Star Trek kind of story. Like the Federation would be doing this. The Enterprise would have made a call like this to try to. They would have had it peacefully. The Jedi choose violence.
Yeah, actually, and that's the crazy thing, and it threw me a bit, but I didn't mind it. Now, in the meantime, I say those things that are from the headlines. It doesn't push it like.
No, but that's like two tribes go to war.
And legit, like Frankie Goes to Hollywood. You end up where all this going on, though. It does show you that in war, there's not a lot of great sides. So they end up realizing. So what the Jedi decide, it is crazy that what they decide to do is pretty much attack both sides to take down all their capabilities to fight so that they have to then broker peace. But I got this weird play where it seems like they're not quite telling the other that they like, hey, we're doing this to you, but don't say anything about the other, thinking, oh my God, we got to get to this peace before this other side realizes. But both sides are kind of crippled and then go to broker peace. I'm telling you right now, it's a cool thing to have the Jedi do. Because you said it's more brokering peace through deceit and weird power. I don't think this peace is going to last. It doesn't not at all go and give you the solution to what might be causing the big problems, but it almost makes it play that they don't even realize.
Right. And then there's a B story there's an assassin after Qui-Gon.
I like that. That's actually a pretty cool way to continue on, right?
Yeah, that's going to be a thread.
Who do you think it is?
It's his partner. Whoever, yeah.
The funny play is, I thought that the guy blew himself up. I didn't think it was a smoke bomb. I thought it was one of those, like, instead of biting down on the cyanide tooth, that he blew himself up. I was like, holy crap, that guy was committed. And even this, and you end up where you do have Qui-Gon with this guy, and as you said, this partner guy. This guy's a little brash. He's doing things. He actually tries to make peace with this one guy by manipulating him with the Jedi mind trick,
he's a young,
that threw me off.
Recently graduated Padawan learner. So he tries to manipulate, you know what I mean? That violates consent in a way.
It was weird, right? I thought, boy, that's not what you do. I thought that Qui-Gon was going to...
You think I'm weak-minded.
Again, you do that. This guy, you're basically telling this guy, you're not going to be at war anymore.
You just ended the conversation. You just showed your hand. I mean, the dishonorable technique you tried.
It was dishonorable, and it was in war. That was what got me. And Qui-Gon, I thought, was going to actually apologize a little more and say, whoa, we didn't mean it. But in the meantime, they even think that this guy he's very standoffish, this Vukara guy from that planet. He ends up he's very gruff. But again, I don't love Star Trek. I've mentioned it on the Efficient. People who listen to the podcast know. Guy Stork, that I even was mentioning before, he is a huge Star Trek fan. I'm a Star Wars guy. But in this, even with this guy, it does feel a lot more Star Trek to me at points because of the idea, this is a society, say like the Klingons or the Rom, that have the set rules. They just don't talk to outsiders about things, even though he knows he's in the right. He's not going to say, well, I'm here on a rescue mission. I'm here because my people were captured. He just says, centuries battle, we're doing this and whatnot. So I did like that. It ended up having gray areas that you end up, finding out about. But then you also get, lightsaber battles and stuff with this assassin. So it was pretty cool. And then you also get Yoda with his deal, because this is all of the Jedi at this point being told they have to stop this war. And again, what I do like about it is that is a Jedi thing. They are sent to be ambassadors to stop conflicts and things like that. But they don't go in hugging.
you got to figure, like, canonically, it's only a few years before the Phantom Menace. It doesn't. There's no asterisks, no editor's notes, and no timeline. But we can tell this because of Obi-Wan's visual age. That's the key. The crux of the biscuit is the apostrophe, as Frank Zappa said.
And that is a really smart way to show you really go by Obi-Wan.
Right.
Now, in the meantime, when this is all going on, Yoda is training Obi-Wan, that connection, and Obi-Wan ends up having a vision of the future, which is really cool at points because you're going to play a lot of things that won't happen, but are cool to think that he might think will. But then even at one point, and I thought it was the cool visual of him fighting his, like, the whole play of, Anakin and Darth and all that. And it gets like a vision of that as well, which was pretty cool at the one point in these things going. But he also has the vision that Qui-Gon's going to die from this assassin, which we know won't happen. But it's cool that he thinks that, and it's cool to see. It's a way to make it a threat. You know what I mean? These are the problems with these Star Wars books. And if you have been reading, especially the newer ones that they come between Empire and Return of the Jedi, you're reading them, and then all of a sudden they'll be like, oh no, I think that Chewbacca's going to die. No, I think he won't, because we know what happens in Return of the Jedi. So you end up where you have to do little things to keep people interested, even though they know everything that happens will end up going into Jedi. And that was a cool way to play it. I thought that was a cool deal, the way that you have that assassin show up and then showing it's a threat, because it's definitely something that Obi-Wan sees. I thought that was a neat play. But again, when they go off and start, they destroy the, what is it? I'm going to say this name wrong. The Syrinxian Weapons Forge. And then also get like the fleet of the other, like they pretty much cripple these two planets, but to make peace. And like, basically it's like, listen, if we can get them in the same room, they'll get peace. So we're going to do it this way. I thought it was funny. Yoda's all for it. He makes me laugh too. And they're doing their whole, hey, we're going to talk to you about it. Yoda goes in on that floating chair. It's funny too, like he's standing on it. It makes me laugh, Yoda. But and then in the meantime, Mace is going to see the Svukra and saying, hey, you got to do this. We just destroyed your stuff, and
like it's they have the parallel conversation. They're having the same conversation, because they're like the Shogun and his lieutenant. You know what I mean?
I thought it worked out just like that. It was pretty cool. And then when you get that idea, almost mimicking the line from the beginning of episode 1, actually, the you've never dealt with Jedi before, have you? When they're there and he says that, hey, we're pretty quick. You see them just destroying the hell out of everything. I mean, they are ripping apart
Their solution was to
right?
tear apart their infrastructure and leave them actually exposed to, intergalactic violence without,
That was my favorite thing thinking. When I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know if this is a great plan. Again, I don't think it gets to the base of why they're fighting, but it also ends up where we'll find out 6 issues or whatever it would pop up. They just got taken over by a third party now because they have no way to fight back. Both of them are now done and subjugated. So there you go, Jedi. But again, Jedi, to me, I like sometimes when you have to play almost like the Guardians in the Green Lantern books, that they're a little shady sometimes. And they do get manipulated a bit too. So, they're not perfect and they're destroying everything. It is funny. It's a great spread.
I mean,
page. This is great.
This is the age where the dark side is starting to obscure things in the background, and the rise of the power of the dark side, because there's when Obi-Wan's visions, he's got visions of things that will come, things that won't come, and like, so it's he's got this one pretty good panel of it's Dooku, and he's holding his red lightsaber and he's brandishing it at Yaddle, who, if you would know from episode 1, and she's a character in this, is like a female of Yoda and Grogu's species. And it's interesting, as a lifelong Star Wars fan, I know this, that George Lucas and subsequently Disney has never identified Yoda's race with a name. And because this is Star Wars, they're all aliens and creatures. They all have names. We all know what planet they're from. Trandoshians and the such,
Yeah, and legit, the one is actually Obi-Wan fighting himself. I said Anakin.
That was a good one.
Like that, but wow. That's a really cool play.
That comes from like the tree. and Dagobah.
Yeah, that's what it
you
reminded
know?
me of.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then you have like a Boba Fett scene that looks pretty cool. You have,
Mhm.
what could be coming up, female deal. You have Yoda looks like he becomes the Emperor. I
You
mean,
have
there's
Keller
a lot
and-
of crazy
you
things,
have,
right?
Keller and Bach. Is that his name? And that's that's the guy who played Jar Jar returns in like was that the Acolyte that was in no? Oh no. It was the Kenobi show because he's the one that
I'm
saves
telling
Grogu.
you, that all goes all over my head a lot of
Exactly.
times. Yeah.
I only know this from the capsule. I've never seen any of this stuff.
Oh, some of this stuff is really cool. I mean, it just looks cool when you
Uh-huh.
look at the stuff. And there's even, some monsters and stuff
Well,
like that. So that's a pretty cool deal.
I have watched the last 8 minutes of the Kenobi show because I wanted to check out this lightsaber duel that breaks canon. And I really enjoyed this lightsaber fight that breaks canon. But for me, it doesn't break canon because I'm a Lucas era fan and it's imperturbable. It's a closed story. It can't be broken or hurt by Disney. Disney can only do their own thing. It's a good way to waterproof your mind
That's
to the
how
outrage.
you do it. Well,
Yeah,
there you go.
seriously. There you
And
go.
So at the end, that's what happens. Yoda's like, "Hey, what'd you see?" And he's like, "Well, I saw Qui-Gon dying."
Right.
And he's upset. And again, what is it? This does end up mirroring the idea of, Luke on Dagobah. Oh my God, my friends, I have to go. We'll see how this works out. But it looks like that assassin could possibly murder Qui-Gon. So we'd have to see who that is, what's going on, as you said. And then you
Mhm.
end up, even that one, some of the things in that vision, you even see on the cover of the next issue. So I think that vision is, okay, we're going to deal with all these things and kind of deal with some things going forward. And then it says the next one, and the next cover looks great again, but says the Jedi face a new threat in the form of the deadly and brilliant Atha Prime,
Mhm.
featuring creepy Jedi versus monsters action, which everybody thinks is sexy,
I
and the
can hear
identity
this,
of Qui-Gon Jinn's
like, read in
would-be
the old
assassin.
The old
Yeah.
radio voice. And the identity
Exactly,
of Qui-Gon
and I
Jinn
thought it was
would be
pretty
assassin
good.
is revealed.
Yep. And
Next time.
it even says, Yoda and Vecna Mooncrest face the tyranny of Atha Prime. So you have that
Featuring
Atha Prime.
creepy Jedi versus monster action.
Exactly. I thought it was pretty cool. So I did like it. It's not my favorite thing I've ever read. And I'm hoping that when the Star Wars stuff comes back, it gets better than what I've read recently. But this is fun, and it's
Yes.
what it is. So
I
I think we can continue dealing with this. I don't mind it. But what would you give it?
This will only go like 5 or 6 issues. It'll be its own cute little story. I'm trying to keep my numbers tighter to the actual grade scales. So I think I want to give this a B minus. So that would be but that starts at 8. I mean, that sounds pretty high. I would rather just say like a 7.6.
I'm like a 7. I'm like a solid 7.
Okay, I'll
I
say
like
7.6.
it. Again, my scaling is, and really what I go with is gut feeling. I've said this before. When I get done, I sit there and I kind of reading so many books. I'm like, okay, that made me feel like a 7. And a 7 to me is not a bad score.
Cool.
That's a score that most people should check it out. You may like it more, a little less, but I think that's the play of it's good enough that if you do like these characters, you should check out. And art's pretty good. Cover's great. But yeah, I like that. I'm glad that we did it. We'll see who the assassin was and see this Atha Prime, who looks pretty cool. Looks like an old samurai. So we will move on to the next book, though. And the next book is the Web of Spider-Verse,
The Web
New
of
Blood
Spider-Verse.
#1. And there's a bunch of creatives on this. You end up having Matt Groom, Greg Pak, Jordan Morris, Matt Groom again. He's kind of seems to be the guy who's doing the main deal of this to try to get like the bookends,
Right.
where it is a recruiting deal of the Web Heart trying to recruit a good team to go against this bad team that's going to be assembled too. It's kind of goofy. And the thing is, a lot of the stuff was Dan Slott's stuff. He seems to be done with it, but they're going to keep going.
Mhm.
And it's okay. I mean, you just get what you get in these are a way to give you more of these multiversal web of life spiders. You know,
Right.
the idea of here's Peter Parker this, here's Peter Parker that. Some of them hit, some of them don't.
Right.
But this isn't bad. I mean, and the fun play of this one actually is because usually the other ones were, okay, we're just going to show you these and everyone's going to be the greatest. Oh, you get these things of elevation and whatnot.
Mhm.
In this, they're actually like, no, that's not going to work. Like, I actually like that enough because in that you go right away and you have the the Spider Heart, the Web Heart say, okay, I got some things. I'm glad that old Spider Ham gets his representation, but they need one more fighter for this battle. So let's go and see.
Who's it going to be? Let's see.
I have a couple in here. Not all of them are going to work. And the first one is the Spider Hulk.
Spider Hulk.
And it's Greg Pak doing the Spider Hulk with Alan Robinson on art. It's okay. I mean, basically it ends up being Peter saying, I wish I had the strength of the Hulk. He's kind of mad about the idea. Now, I don't like I swear to God, I hate anybody who says cheese off. You know, it used to cheese me off. I never liked that phrase, but it didn't feel like very much Peter to me. But it doesn't matter because what he says is, I have the proportionate strength of a spider. But what does that matter in a universe that has the Thing, Thor, Hercules, you even get Namor over there. And the idea that I wish that I was the Hulk. Not realizing, number one, when you're the Hulk, and especially the Hulk he becomes, it's just, dumb Hulk. It's just me get puny guy, and everybody's losing their mind, especially Mary Jane, because he does turn into the Hulk, comes back to Mary Jane. She's like, oh my God, you're hurt. How many times has she said that? But he's like, no. And she's but your costume's ripped. He's like, it's fine. It's not a big deal. But then she says, you came in your costume. Won't somebody notice? Well, Green Goblin notices, and there's big trouble. So again, this is very quick and kind of goofy. So you could go with it. But he goes, okay. Mary Jane starts yelling at him. And he goes, keep it coming, baby. Because then I'll get angry and turn into the Hulk, which he does. And then he just fights guys, right?
Yeah. It turns into this giant brouhaha of leveling one baddie after the other. But it's great because there is that split between Hulk and Peter. And it's great because I just realized, like, well, yeah, Bruce is a genius as well. And they're such opposite, personalities. But yeah, so when you see Smart Hulk, that's a deviation from the plan. No, Hulk is the opposite of Banner in a way. So it's fitting that Spider Hulk is the opposite of Peter Parker, who's brilliant and empathetic and, and responsible.
Yeah, this Spider Hulk is, the one of the bigger plays is Rhino attacks him because now he's getting attacked by everybody. He's just going and rampaging around.
Right, it's like a Sinister Six attack almost.
Yeah, he rips the horn off him and just says, dopey horn man, and then just completely pile drives him into the ground. He's not very nice. He is going to kill him, it seems, right?
He's about to cross the line.
Yeah, he is. And Mary Jane steps and says no, and he growls in her face. And then she just walks away and he's got to jump out of there. I mean, he's really going to town. He's really ripping people apart and almost plays the idea of he wishes he was Hulk so that he had the strength to, defeat these characters, these villains. But when he does have it's not what he wanted. He goes over the top. I mean, he punches Green Goblin, just explodes, just shatters the glider, and then he goes down, might be dead. I mean, there's some bad stuff going on. Ock comes in, he ends up taking care of him. And then at the end, you do get classic, almost a TV deal where Peter has now got to leave town. I mean, being Hulk really screwed him over, right? I mean, he's now getting Mary Jane. He's got to leave everyone. And as he's walking down the road, he looks over and there's Banner on the other side. And they just look at each other like, yep, we're both screwed.
People of a certain age can hear the Hulk song. It's literally called The Lonely Man. And it's a piano piece in a minor key. And it's so sad. And you know it if you heard it. And, ding, 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 ding.
And it's funny. They don't even say anything. They look at each other, realize, yep, you know what's going on. They just go opposite ways while you see in the distance, the vision of Spider Hulk. But this really set him on a bad path. Now, in the story, it's so quick. You don't really get why, how, whatever. It's just, hey, I wish that I was that. I'm that. Boom. It doesn't work. And you have the Webheart say, yeah, we don't need him. He's a little bit dumb and he is really not a great guy. And ends up, he says, no, this spider does not possess the drive, the clarity, purpose I seek. So let's continue. So I don't mind the idea that, okay, that was fun enough. It shows you why Peter wouldn't be good as the Hulk, Spider Hulk. And then we move on. So you don't have to worry about it. Then the next one is weird, though.
I like this. It's called Count Parker.
It feels like this could have been something of its own and a different thing, like a mini or something. Maybe even I'm telling you, I don't know why, but it reminds me of something that Kari Andrews would do. But
Yeah,
and
that's a good
you know what I mean? And so what you have is Mary Jane she's a Helsing. She's a vampire hunter going after vampire Peter. Vampire spider, so it's crazy, right?
It's Mary Jane Van Helsing. She's been hired by the town of New York to come in and kill some vampires, who are led by Count Parker. And it's set like Earth 1980X, and it's got this awesome pencil work. Like, I love the art in this story. And it's
Sumit Kumar on art, who I do like Sumit Kumar. It's Jordan Morris writing, who I don't really know.
Never heard
I'll
of.
give some credit.
What has Sumit Kumar done?
Sumit Kumar, I know. Crap. I thought that Sumit Kumar ended up doing some of like the JLD and stuff like that at one point, but I might be mistaken. You look that up as I go with this. But I do know that I've said the name and like it enough. So you tell me. But we end up where Mary Jane, she goes
on
to this
Helverine.
town. Okay.
Yeah,
and maybe I'm even getting the wrong guy in my mind.
He was doing some Justice League back in 2018 to 2022.
Because that's what I thought he was on, but maybe not.
He did Man-Bat in 2021.
Okay. Maybe because that was a crazy miniseries too.
He'll be doing Death of the Silver Surfer upcoming. So it might
not be. Maybe the things that I was thinking of aren't exactly the deal, but I do. It's a different art. I do like the art style. It's gritty. It looks like an older deal. And
like it's at that for me, it's the Warren comics of the 70s, like creepy and eerie. Like that it was for me, like really, and it fits the story. It's a vampire story, and it's got pretty decent lettering too, because you have the narrative boxes are in this almost kind of like tilted cursive like kind of style, told from Mary Jane's point of view, where she's fighting Peter, she's fighting Count Parker, and she's almost like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She's about to stake. She's won, but then she sees the web of life, and she sees the multiverse of possibilities where she is with this handsome man and they're in love. And she hesitates for a moment, and that's when...
And he bites her.
Yeah.
And the thing is, too, from the very beginning, when she comes into town, she's bored. You even see, she says, like, and it's a cool way to give the thing, because you don't need to hear the whole story, and so she says, I only hear, like, the things, vampires, bathing in blood, eternally grateful. Like, she ends up where she's just bored of doing this. It's not very fun to her anymore. She knows. And even when she gets closer and goes to this castle that does look like straight out of creepy, she ends up saying, okay, this is when they go through the playbook. We'll be attacked by familiars. They come out. And, you have a punk looking guy. You have all these people from the town. She takes them down. She says, I'm not going to kill them because they might be able to be turned back and the thrall will be off when I end up killing, this Count Parker, the head vampire. But like you said, it plays out very quickly, but it does play out where she's bored. She even goes in when she goes, they always have labs, then says one of these will, open their eye. And it's Rhino. It's a Rhino deal. And she's like, one of them will pop their eye open. And I'll have to find. It does it. I mean, she knows the rundown. She knows the playbook and is bored and says, all I have to do is stab him here. Also goes with the funny trick. This is the idea. Martian Manhunter, he doesn't like fire, right? Mm-hmm. Neither do I. I don't want to get set on fire. I don't have to be Martian Manhunter. So the big play always was the idea, a stake to the heart of a vampire it'll kill anybody.
Anyone, yeah.
And she says it. She's like, a stake that, well, it does kill everybody. That's their deal. And then just seems like she's like kind of smitten a bit when she goes and there's Count Parker is like lounging. Like he's like Burt Reynolds on a rug up there. And this big thing of web. It's cool.
Oh, and I'm like, there's the whole thing of, the vampire thrall itself. It's like Christopher Lee or Bela Lugosi, the eyes and and seducing the woman, with the male gaze, man. And this is all classic vampire stuff.
It is. And she's bored and probably all horned up. She's by herself, right?
She's a vampire killer. That means she's been doing this and like Even an old Buffy, where she's the musical episode. She's like,
When she's bored.
I'm so bored. I just want to feel something. Every single night, the same arrangement.
Oh, it's the
I
best.
go out and fight the fight.
I love that
I love that
episode.
scene.
So when she goes and she finally gets to Count Parker, she's about to step, and she sees through the web of life, through the deal. She sees that almost in every other they're together.
Right.
Except the 616, like a jerk, that Nick Lowe. But you end up, the ultimate, we're together. But she sees that we're supposed to be together. We're always this. It's always us. And that takes her, it distracts her. And he bites her. Now they're together. And I mean, from the one page to the next, Mary Jane all of a sudden becomes sexy goth Mary Jane because she's a vampire and she's ready to go. And she says, I have a family now. And that's the thing. I'll give credit here. Normally what you'll have is, oh no, I'm a blood-sucking jerk. And she is so happy. She loves it. She's like, this is what I always wanted, to be a vampire.
Yeah.
And they don't really cut corners here. And then she even says, let's go get them, Tiger. So they're going to kill people, but that's what they're doing. They're vampires.
I'll never be
so it's
born
kind of
again.
fun. Yeah. And she says, I might have a crazy family, but it's still a family. We're good. So there you go. People want Mary Jane and Peter to have a family in the 616.
Mm-hmm.
It's not quite the 616, but it is. So there you go. But then the Web of Life is like, yeah, we don't want them. Like, that's the best. Like, we don't like vampires. So we'll move on to the next.
Looking.
Yeah, and so if anybody wants to get upset, the thing that ends up happening is you get Miles. But the thing that upsets me the most here, this story isn't very good. This last one to me is a little off. You don't get enough. It's just the idea of a planet where the Kree and the Skrull, the Kree have taken over completely. They've set up their base, and then there's these people revolting, one being Miles, and he has Aaron, his uncle Prowler. And so you just go really quick. I thought this was kind of the basic bitch type story here.
Yes,
where,
I agree, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the others actually had some interesting ideas, almost what ifs.
You came up with the Spider Prowler at the beginning of your pitch, and you just needed to orchestrate a story that led up to your reveal of the really cool costume.
And it's really neat. And the idea of this is, like you said, I think it was, we want to get Miles as Spider Prowler on this big team. So make it, the others had that bit of, kind of mystery or a little bit of wild card feel that were kind of cool. But this one, basically, you're just waiting for, okay, Miles is just going to be a good guy. Aaron sacrificed himself. The Kree are attacking. And even the idea of a planet with the Kree haven't taken over and they're going to come get it. It just wasn't as interesting to me as the others, but it was okay. And you get Spider Prowler,
right?
Which,
it's very
again, that's
it's
really
a sci-fi
cool
standard, man. Yeah, it's like this is alien invasion. We're the resistance on Earth. You know what I mean? And we're going to get through this together. And we're a ragtag fugitive fleet riding, lonely quest. That's from Battlestar Galactica, kids.
What you end up getting then is, okay, I've gotten my complete deal, and then it says to be continued in Web of Venomverse New Blood.
Yes.
Where now the Venom Heart will go and try to pick their Venom deal, and we'll get the same kind of thing. And then there is a spider toy thing at the end.
Yeah, the one page.
Funny.
Okay, this is written by and drawn and inked and colored and lettered by Chris Eliopoulos. So it's done in that famous kind of Bill Waterston, Calvin and Hobbes style. It's a single page. It's very reminiscent of the old Sunday comic strips that were bigger than the daily strips, which were traditionally black and white. And it's fun and it's juvenile.
It's just a little juvenile deal. There's a bit because, and in fact, when we're done, I'm probably going to rush off to go and do the this week's review of the Walking Dead Deluxe that they come out with. It's colored and all that. And we're
it's
on
interesting.
I think we're on episode or issue 108.
Let me tell you, Jim,
I think
I read issue 106 a couple of weeks ago, and because it's such a guilty pleasure, it's because I'm revisiting Walking Dead after all these years, and that's the one where it's Negan's talking to Carl. Carl's his captive, but there's these great scenes with Rick and Jesus in the middle of a hall, and it's nighttime, and there's no electricity, so it's beautiful light source and lighting. And the use of the colors, and it's so really impressive.
And what it reminds me of at the end of each issue, you do get little bites, and it's pretty much a Calvin and Hobbes-esque version of that issue.
Yes! Yes!
Really funny. I love it. But yeah, we will be doing issue, I believe, 107, whatever the one that came up. But we're doing the deal. So I do like these kind of things. Yeah, I don't think he does it, but I forget who does it. But it ends up it's and it's over the top. Like Carl in that is a complete insanity in those little bites, and they really go over the top and accentuate stuff, which is pretty fun. But what would you give this?
This I'd like to give a 7.5 or 7.6.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 7.5. I think it was better than I thought it was going to be. I actually enjoyed it.
It surprised me. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. I love alternate costumes for Spider-Man himself, and the vampire story was the one that got me. See, like I unfortunately, well, maybe it's a 7 because I did say at the beginning in the green room, I'm going to give half a point off for Greg Pak.
I'm going to be the positive guy then because he
maybe
didn't
I'll
block
just give it a
me.
7. You didn't, he's blocked me on Twitter. What can I do?
Me, so I'm in. But
I'm
yes,
not going to spend money on him.
It's still pretty good though. It's still better than I thought it would be, and I don't think many people are even involved in these books that much anymore.
Yeah.
But it's okay. It's one of those I read it. I had a couple, chuckles, or I like the idea of Mary Jane Vampire Hunter looks sexy as a goth, and then I'm out. And it didn't.
No, I'll keep my 7.5. So I'll keep my 7.6. I'll be nice to Mr. Bach.
Just pretend that you would have given it an 8.
Well,
without that, right?
No,
I don't think it's an 8 though, but I think 7.5 is actually the right score.
Because the Great Bach the Spider Hulk story worked. It was concise. It had beats, and it was just simple, and it worked. And I was satisfied with it. So, there you go, Mr. Bach.
Yeah. So there he goes. He's winning you over without even knowing it. But thank you for joining me once again.
Thank you so much.
Sully.
And hi to everyone out there tuning in, and smash that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, and that would be awesome because we're having these excellent comic book shop style conversations out here all the time, and you could be part of it.
Exactly. I don't even know how to pump things. You're more the pumper. You're more the P.T. Barnum.
It's muscle memory.
I'm not very good at it. I just say at the end, hey, everybody, thanks for listening, and we will talk to you all later.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.